Thank you for tuning in to Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid. We're visited by our amazing guests coming from all walks of life. Want to learn their story, their struggles, and their journey on how they got to where they are today. So stick around. In this episode, you'll get to speak with Hayden Humphrey. He helps you get paid to be yourself and 10x your results. A few years ago, he left his full-time corporate job to pursue his passions and create a life where he had more freedom, flexibility, and fun. He's a professionally trained success coach and works with people like you, conscious, highly motivated rock stars, and helps you amplify your impact and get paid to be yourself. So let's check out what Hayden Humphrey is talking about. So I'm trying to change up the format of how I start the podcast. Usually what I would do is I would do the intro within the conversation and then, get into the episode. But I think I want to change it up a little bit where we just get into the conversation, you start a conversation, and then I'll record the intro later on. I don't know if I need to tell you that, but just something I've been experimenting because again, this is kind of like a hobby that started, and I'm kind of growing it, but not putting too much time in it because I do also have a full-time job as a user experience designer, and there's a lot of time I'm thinking, okay, I need to come up with what are my standards of processes, so then I can hand off things for others to do for me. And so I've been working through those things. So it's been very rewarding overall, and it's been pretty fun as well. So
that was the thing I realized in the podcast that I run, the Elevate podcast, before I started. I was like, I have to get my process down.
Yeah.
To know exactly what I'm responsible for and what other people are going to be responsible for. Otherwise, this could be such a time suck. And me doing a lot of administrative and editing. And I was like, I don't want to do any of that stuff. So before I even started recording, I literally sat down and I wrote out from beginning to end, what I saw as the process of what needed to be created in terms of content and show description and editing and follow-up emails, templating, scheduling, all of these pieces. And I, luckily enough, the coaches training program that I'm associated with is called Accomplishment Coaching. They actually have a media arm called Accomplishment Media, and they basically support coaches in starting podcasts and writing books. And so I've been actually using them as the production company, so to speak, with my podcast, where I just show up to the Zoom and I invite someone to a calendar invite that I want to work with. Production company sends the email with the intake form. I get the intake form with all their information. I show up to the Zoom meeting. They record it. They check levels. They do all the editing in real time. And then they basically go through and post it. So it's this perfect, I was like, I just
Dude, I'm so jealous. I had to figure all of that out on my own the past 2 years.
But yeah, man. So it's been good because that was the whole thing, was how do I just hand those pieces off so that I can do the thing that I love doing, which is having conversations with people.
Yeah, that's what I realized, because it all started I just wanted to do the podcast because I love creating media, and I finally got into creating the podcast and documenting the process of my beekeeping. And so I was recording the episodes on my way to work, on my way home, and I had an hour-long commute. So I was like, let's just do this, record it, and then I would just publish it right from my phone. And then as I started doing the interviews and started talking, getting more into it, I was like, I'm spending way too much time editing these episodes. I need to find somebody to edit them for me. And then sort of slowly I figured out the process. And then I ended up getting a Power Up Podcasting course with Pat Flynn. And that's been really great.
Nice. That's
so far, but I need to apply more of the things that he's teaching in there to the episode, to my podcast again, like you say, come up with those SOPs in the beginning, so then
Mhm.
you're just doing the one thing that's necessary to do.
Yeah, I think I've realized it's even the same thing in how I interview people and how
Mm-hmm.
I basically vet people as to whether or not they're going to be a good fit. Because in the beginning I was just like, yeah, you seem nice and positive, like come on the show. And I just have had a couple. I've had a couple of people who have like just it just wasn't the kind of conversation that I was looking to have
Yeah.
for whatever reason. So now I'm realizing like the way that I have initial conversations with people is I
Mm.
very clearly articulate the vision that I
Yeah.
have for the show and what I'm
Mm.
asking from someone in a
Yeah.
conversation with me, because I want to have like a very intimate, authentic, open conversation with people,
Yeah.
and not have it be a thing where they're like pitching their business or
Mm.
talking about how great they are and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I personally think the value and the thing that's going to have someone want to buy from you is you showing up as a real human and not
Yeah.
just you like pitching yourself. So
Exactly.
so I've had to like set that up and then enroll people in that vision and be like,
Mm.
hey, here's what I'm asking. I'm setting the bar pretty high. And if
Mm-hmm.
you're interested in making this same impact that I want to create, like
Yeah.
then let me know and we can schedule a time to talk.
No, that's really powerful. That's really good in that, you're setting up the bar, you're setting up the standards for your podcast,
Mhm.
because after all, it is your podcast. And in some communities I've seen where, they're like, because I've been part of so many communities on podcasts, and they're like, hey, I just had an interview and I don't think this interview went too well, and I don't think I'm gonna publish it.
Mhm.
And people are like, absolutely, it's your podcast. And
Mhm.
if it's not bringing the value that you think to the audience, then yeah, leave it out.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it's I imagine that that's probably difficult for some people. At least,
Yeah.
when I think about my immediate tendency, it'd be like, well, this person said, spent an hour of their time with me and,
Hmm.
et cetera, et cetera. But I think that there's a certain level of ownership that you have to take as the creator of a product. And if what you're creating is truly in service of people, like you then need to be willing to say, I'm actually not going to share this because it's not up to the quality standards that I would like it to be, and that I know the listeners are actually worthy of. Like they deserve something that is high quality, that is whatever. And so it's almost like you're taking the bullet in that
Yeah.
sense for for the audience and for the
Yeah.
people to get the value that they need, but it requires a level of commitment to the end product and
Hmm.
your ego at the door.
It's almost like you'd be doing a disservice to your audience if
Yeah.
you publish something that's
Yep.
not in line with what your game is about.
Hmm.
So really, really awesome. I love it. So tell us a version of your journey that no one's heard of before. It's really good to have you here on the podcast. We met through the unconventional leaders, and I would love to get into the mind of Hayden,
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
what's something nobody's heard of before.
Oh man, that's a great question. I might have to steal that for my podcast. Um, I think I've talked about it in bits and pieces, but never cohesively. That I think my journey over the past couple of years and what I see really as like the core foundation of the life that I want to build is really seeking joy and seeking play in a
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Like for me, the most important thing to me is personal growth.
Mm,
Always. It's like, what can I learn from this? How can I move myself forward? How can I learn more about myself? How can I practice something different?
yeah.
Because the thing that matters most is me fully enjoying and experiencing the richness and depth of life as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Um, and spending the most amount of time that I can in that state, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, everything that I've done from where I went to college, from where I interned to where I moved afterwards to my, to leaving the first company that I was at after 8 months, to jumping ship and being self-employed, to becoming a coach. Like all of
Mm-hmm.
these pieces have been in service of me bringing parts of myself, my inner self, out into the
Mm-hmm.
world and creating a life and an experience that's a direct reflection of who I am as a person. um, I think I just spent a lot of my life growing up performing and trying to be the thing that I thought people would want me to be,
Mm-hmm.
and people pleasing in a lot of senses. I view one of my core fears is that I'm just an unlovable person. I'm just
Oh man.
unlikable. People aren't going to like me, and so I gotta like perform. I gotta smile a lot. I gotta be
Mm.
really positive. I gotta laugh all the time. I gotta not share with people when they've upset me or when I'm
Mm-hmm.
angry, or yeah, whatever it is. And I've hidden a lot of those things away. And the more that I, through chosen experiences and involuntary experiences,
Uh-huh.
the more that I start to bring pieces of that,
Yeah.
out, and I stop performing and stop the show, so to speak, my life gets richer. I become more present. I experience less anxiety. I'm
Yeah.
more intimately connected to people in my life. And so I think in a lot of ways, that's really what has driven me and continues to drive me.
Dude, that's really intuitive. I mean, intuitive, because it really, and it has, and I'm see, anytime somebody makes a decision, a decision like that, like the one you made, where you're being very direct and very upfront of what you want out of it,
Mm,
it shows me that, you've brought up in an environment where your parents taught you the importance of making these decisions,
mm,
right?
mm.
Because for as long as I can remember, I had very, very bad memory of, all the things that I did was, okay, this is what you're supposed to be doing. This is what you're supposed to be going to, supposed to be going into computer science or, biology, because those were the two
Mm.
options that we had
Mhm,
in high
mhm.
school. And then when I came to the States, I finally ended up going to the area that I thought was exciting for me
Mhm.
in one way or another. And there was also some restrictions, but again, I almost feel like that even though I'm in my 40s, I feel like I'm in my 20s because I'm making the decisions
Yeah.
that I should have been making back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Totally.
it's been pretty awesome. But but watching your journey and listening to the different decisions that you made very positively shows me that you had access, or you had mentors, um that guided you in one way or another, or or you watched people closely, or maybe you're the only child. I don't know. I mean, I'm the oldest of seven siblings, right?
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
divided attention of your parents.
Yeah.
So there's, like, I think about these weird things, but
Yeah. No, I mean, and you're so right. I think that the way that we grow up does have a really profound impact on the people that we turn out to be. And,
hmm
where we learn how the world works is our parents and our family and the people that
hmm
were immediately around us. And so if that's dysfunctional, there's a high chance that a lot of the beliefs that we have and the stories that we have are at least somewhat dysfunctional or
yeah.
disempowered. And
hmm
I would agree. I definitely feel like I'm in a place now where I have more agency over
hmm
how I make decisions and why I make the decisions that I do. And it wasn't always like that. Granted, I grew up, I had a very privileged upbringing. I'm incredibly lucky to have had the upbringing that I did, and the ability to go to college, because not everybody is able to do that.
hmm
And I was on I was on the this is what I'm supposed to be doing train. Like,
hmm
this was I went and I got the professional services job in New York. I moved to San Francisco. I worked at a startup. I joined LinkedIn, like a much larger technology company, and all of it was driven by, this seems impressive. This is what is going to impress the most number of people, is
yeah.
I do these large somewhat out of the ordinary, potentially difficult things.
Mhm.
And like one of the biggest turning points for me was when I was working at LinkedIn. I missed my sales quota. This was at the beginning of 2017. I missed
Mhm.
my sales quota, and it really shook my world up, which might sound a little bit dramatic, but the thing that I realized was how much I was letting my mood and how I connected with people be influenced by a totally arbitrary number. Like
Oh,
a sales
wow.
quota, a completely arbitrary number, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a totally made up thing. And yet I was deriving my sense of self-worth from my ability to hit that number or not hit that number. And I'd been
Oh.
doing that for a long time, like, basically deriving my sense of self-worth from my achievement and how
Mhm.
successful I was and the results that I was creating. And so, it's taken a lot of coaching and therapy and reflection and all different types of experiences to get to the place where I feel like that's not so much driving the show anymore.
Yeah.
What's most important to me is serving and fully expressing myself and showing people how much I love them, because I love everybody and I want
Mhm.
to know that. But I the reason I share all of that is that the way that I now operate is available to everybody. Like
Yeah.
sense of agency and this sense of optimism and this sense of commitment and being in relationship with other people. It's totally available to everybody, because I think it's our natural state as human beings.
Yeah.
It just gets covered up by conditioning and false beliefs and all these stories that are really just interpretations. They're not actually real.
Absolutely, man. That makes so much sense. And when you said, you're now all available, and then some of the things that I noticed is, you reached out and you had coaches to help you figure out, okay, what is going on?
Mhm.
Because a
Yep.
lot of the times you hear these stories, and all the successful people have gone through some kind of hardship,
Yep.
and these hardships are like monumental. It's like, I lived in a car for 8 years.
Right.
Either they're homeless, either they've gone to the basements of life itself.
Mhm.
I said J.K. Rowling's, the author behind Harry Potter, and what she experienced,
Mhm.
how she was able to come up on top. The story of Tony Robbins, and why he went into the area that he went into, and how he
Mhm.
learned from Jim Rohn. It's
Mhm.
really inspiring, because it shows you that not every day needs to be a daylight. I mean, you got to have those night
Mhm.
moments.
Mhm.
You got to have that balance to be able to appreciate the fun times.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. It's about the contrast.
It is.
I think about what's happening now, um, and I think it's being able to hold all of it. Like we were talking about earlier, like being with all of it, um, like the great stuff and the really negative stuff.
Yeah.
I just posted, on Facebook the other day about uh, the importance of feeling your feelings, like all of your feelings right now. Because I realized,
Hmm.
recently I came to this place where I was like, you know what, I don't want to distract myself from my experience, like my bodily, mental, emotional experience. So
Yeah.
I deleted a lot of social media off of my phone.
Hmm.
I'm like not really drinking so much anymore.
Hmm.
I'm not watching TV. Like I'm not trying to distract myself from feeling and being with everything that comes up, especially the fear.
Yeah.
Because what I'm afraid it will happen is if I repress it or if I avoid it or if I don't talk about it, which is natural tendency for a lot of people, it just gets pushed down and becomes trauma, and then it
Hmm.
becomes a really traumatic experience.
Yeah.
So it's like you need to feel all of it. And part of it too, I think, is taking the judgment away from negative feelings. Like I mean, we even
Absolutely.
label them negative. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be either of that.
Yeah.
It's our interpretation of those things. And I think that there is a lot of richness in life. There is a lot of vibrancy when we allow ourselves the whole spectrum of emotions, and being able to be with maybe the more painful things and also face the more painful things that have happened to
Yeah.
us. Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree with that.
And what's amazing is, when you're raising kids, it's a totally different experience because now kids want to have fun all the time.
Yep.
And when they're not having fun, they're sad and bored. Like, well, you gotta take in the boredom, because if
Right.
you are constantly having fun, you're gonna have a very hard life.
Yep.
So it's an important lesson that they've got to learn.
Yeah.
They're home all day long, so we have to look at, okay, when's an appropriate time for them to go watch TV, to go outside, to
Yeah.
sit down and do their workbooks and homework, or because all the schools are also going virtual, and they're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, it's circle time, we're reading
Mhm, mhm.
storybooks. So all of that is very important.
Totally. I think the thing that came up for me when you were talking was like also the difference between play and distractions.
Hmm.
Like I think I don't get me wrong, I love watching TV. I love playing video games. I play so much League of Legends, like it's kind of crazy. But
Yeah.
like I also understand that a lot of times it's a distraction for me.
Hmm.
And like the real feelings of joy and the real feelings of play and fun, like the really deep rooted, almost feel like it's coming from my soul type of emotions, happen when I'm with other people, and happen when
Yeah.
not feeling anxious and when I've
Mhm.
taken care of myself, and I'm, not running around in these stories of overwhelm, or like I'm not
Mhm.
doing enough things, or I didn't do a good enough job.
Yeah.
I think that as people, if we let ourselves sit and let everything come up, what the underlying emotion is, or the underlying experience is, one of contentment and satisfaction and
Yeah.
presence. And there's a lot of joy and positivity that can come from that. So I think that's the thing for everybody to practice, kids included.
Yeah.
It's like, what does it look like to have fun without the distractions? But it just instead just like being present and being with others.
Exactly. And I think you made a really good point about distracting versus playing, because I find myself distracting myself
Mm,
continuously, right?
mhm,
Either on social media, either I'm, looking at photos, I'm having a conversation, but again, I'm distracting myself from doing the real work that needs to be done.
mm,
And sometimes it's okay, because your mind needs time to think and come up with these things, or solve problems and whatnot. But other times you just need to be still and meditate and let your mind, give it all the focus that you can, because even though you're distracting yourself and your mind is working, you're taking away valuable clock ticks, or like they say, when you're rendering a video on your computer, you leave everything, you you basically stop doing everything else, so all of the CPU power is going towards rendering, and you
mm.
shorten that time.
Yeah, I love that analogy. Um, I love that point, and the thing that came up for me as you were talking was I've been really practicing presence in the
Hmm.
last couple of months. And one thing that I realized in, really trying to practice more consistently during the day was stopping myself from grabbing my phone and
Yeah.
looking at social media or looking at my phone. And what I realized is I would go to grab my phone and I would stop myself,
Yeah.
because I'm like, I have no reason to check my phone. And what I
Hmm.
noticed is I'd be really uncomfortable.
Mm.
It was almost uncomfortable to stop myself from just unconsciously, habitually checking my phone.
Yeah.
So I then go to like, what am I trying to distract myself from?
Hmm.
Like, what is it that I can't be with right now,
Yeah.
in, wherever I am, on the train or walking around or at a
Mhm.
party or whatever it is. And I've been rereading actually a book called The Untethered Soul by Michael
Mhm.
Singer. Brilliant, brilliant book. I would like, that's the book that I suggest to people when people
Mhm.
ask me for book recommendations.
Yeah.
But the part that in the book that he's talking about right now is how we've given our brains the impossible task of trying to control the outside world in order to not trigger us, which is like ridiculous. Like, what a
It is,
ridiculous
yeah.
job. And we wonder why we're so overwhelmed and why we can't turn our brains off.
Oh,
And so, I just think that there's like so much value in like being with and noticing and, in a sense, healing the discomfort and the triggers and the insecurities that we have, so that we can walk around and be super present and aware and connected and loving and peaceful, and not have to perform and not have to think about, wow, can I share my feelings with this person?
Yeah.
What are they going to say? Or can I say that in that way to this person, or whatever it might be? Like, just getting responsible for the internal stuff, so you don't get triggered as much by the external stuff.
Absolutely. And it's, when you said, you stop yourself from grabbing your phone and you feel uncomfortable. A lot of people are in that same boat with touching their faces.
Yeah, I'm doing it right now. I'm literally, as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, I just touched my face. Yeah.
And I was like, and I'm trying to read, and I was like, okay, let's get into the bottom of it. Why do we touch our faces anywhere from 16 to 24 times an hour? And it's insane. And the science is like, human beings and the primates are the only two animals who touch their faces, because it is a way to cope with anxiety. Is a way to, it's one way. Basically, you're touching your skin, and it creates some kind of endorphins or oxytocin, which
Interesting.
causes some causes us to calm down, or get to a safe space. So one of the things that people are saying, okay, because that is one of the ways that these viruses transmit, is from your hands to your face. One thing that you can do is either have like a fidget spinner or something to fidget with, or sit on your hands if you're not using gonna be using them, or if you think you're gonna be touching your face. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Fidget spinner. I think I have one of those. I think I'll have to
Yeah.
pull it out.
And then some people also, what they'll do is they'll put on masks, like the breathing mask, because they don't want to touch their face. Or even if they do touch their face, they're protected.
Mm-hmm.
And if you touch your eyes, they just put on glasses so you're not touching your eyes so much. Um, what's his name? This one guy did an experiment. He basically took this. It's basically this powder that can only be seen in black light, and he basically took to a classroom, and he did this cool experiment. I was like, wow, that's that's really cool. Like, you unknowingly, Mark Robber, you unknowingly touch your face, and it's just weird. It's just crazy how we do that.
It's like those unconscious things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, but is my face still there? Is my nose still there? It's like my hand, your hands are automatically checking, letting your brain know
Everything's okay. Yeah.
everything's fine. Oh, wow. Well, this has been pretty great, man. I like the way we're going in the direction. So what motivates you to be the coach that you are? And you did mention you're a coach.
Yeah. So I work mainly with folks around career transition, and up-leveling their leadership. So with a lot of folks, it's, hey, I'm in this career that doesn't feel authentic to me, and I feel unfulfilled and stuck. And
Yeah.
I want to create something that's more free and genuine to who I am as a person, but I'm just not sure where to start. And the thing that gets me really passionate and motivated about it, in at least in some senses, is because that's my story. Like, that it's the thing that I went through. I know that experience of going to college for a business degree and then feeling like this was the path that I had to take. I had to work in like a larger organization. I had to do whatever it was. And when I got to that place, I mentioned earlier, where I missed my sales quota, it's kind of all that crumbled, and I realized, like, actually I don't care at all what people think about what I'm doing. Like, I don't care at all that people know that I work at LinkedIn or whatever it is. And it took me some time to get there. Like, I was terrified to update my LinkedIn profile, know that I was an entrepreneur. It took me like 2 months to do it because I was too afraid to like tell people that that's what I was doing. So granted, I've had some experience, but now being on the other side, I'm like, I could not give any, I don't care at all, people think about what I'm doing, because I love what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I love what I'm doing. I feel so grateful and so lucky to be able to do the work that I do and to get paid to do the work that I do and to have the lifestyle that I have. Like I don't care if I was the only person working in my business for the rest of my life. I hope that's not
Mm-hmm.
the case. But if that was the case, I'd be
Yeah.
totally okay with it. And if, most people didn't know what I did or my company, that's totally cool with me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I think part of what motivates me is just knowing the experience that I had and knowing that a lot of people are in the exact same place, and how much opens up in terms of your ability to experience life when you realize that the reason that you're making decisions most of the time is not conscious, and more so has to do with this very deep-seated set of beliefs, and you could call them instructions about who you
Yeah.
are and who you're supposed to be and how life is supposed to go. And in a very nihilistic philosophical sense, like nothing means anything, right? Like there's literally no
Yeah.
meaning. The only meaning that anything has is what we assign it. So everything is made up of stories which we don't have to believe. Like we can actually rewrite those stories and write things that are more empowering for us, and in a sense totally rewrite reality. Like you can totally rewrite how your life is going and the types of relationships that you're in and the work experiences that you get to have. But it requires a level of awareness and internal work that you can do by yourself. And what I found in working with a coach was I just 10x'd it. Like I thought I was doing, personal development work beforehand. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I'm a really self-aware person. I'm very reflective, blah, blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah. And then as soon as I started working with a coach, I was like, oh my God, I was taking baby steps. Like comparatively,
Man.
like having someone who's trained, literally trained, to be able to reflect things back to you in your speaking and to be able to support you in uncovering those core stories and those the elements of conditioning, and supporting you in getting to a place where you actually get to from the bottom up how your life goes and what it looks like and the things that you experience. That to me is just incredibly exciting. And I just love people. I just love people all the way up and down. And the work that I've done internally has gotten me to a place where I've realized that the things that I thought were wrong with myself, they're not problems. Like they're not actually real. Like the flaws
Mm-hmm.
that I thought that I had are not flaws at all. They're just
Yeah.
who I am as a person. And so it's given me the opportunity to be much more compassionate with myself, and
Yeah.
also much more compassionate with other people, because I'm a firm believer that everyone is doing the best that they can with the tools that they have available, and people have very different tools. And a lot of times that had nothing to do with their innate goodness or worth as a human,
Yeah.
had to do with where they grew up, who their parents were, and what they went through. So the idea of supporting people in removing those stories and giving them better tools so that they can go out and help other people get better tools,
Mm-hmm.
like that's awesome.
No, that's beautiful, really beautiful, because I keep thinking, you're comparing a frog with a butterfly. Well, they're never going to be able to compete with each other.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So don't put those limitations on yourself, because your tools are not going to be the same tools that somebody else is going to use.
Yep.
You cannot use tools that are used for jewelry to
Yep.
go do woodworking. So you have to be very specific on what tools and what outcome you're looking to do.
And that experience that you're looking for, which everyone is, this one
Yeah.
where we feel like we belong, we're loved, we have work that's fulfilling, we get paid what
Mm-hmm.
we want to get paid, we have
Yeah.
freedom and time and flexibility, that is available for everyone. But the way that you get there is going to be totally different.
Yeah.
And so there is no way that you can look at other people and use what they did and use their strategies to create that experience for yourself. The
Nope.
only way that you can get there is going internally, trusting that you're already enough and that you have the tools inside of you to be able to create that experience. But it's a totally different approach, and one that unfortunately is not more commonly focused on. And so
No.
that's a huge advocate of how I talk with people and things that I talk about,
Mm-hmm.
is this very different way of thinking about it.
No, that's really powerful, and I totally love it. It's almost like you're going to the center of the earth,
Mm-hmm.
and all the different problems that you're going to face that you've never thought about, or maybe you've thought about it, and because answering those questions and doing that homework of working on yourself, and people, that's the thing, right? People don't want, like, a lot of people don't want to work on themselves.
Yep.
like
Yep.
myself included. I'm like, I'll do that research later. Can I do the marketing part first? Like, that's not gonna work.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And it's I totally get it, right? Like I
Yeah.
don't judge people for that because
Yeah.
it's scary. It's scary. It's a scary thing
It's super scary.
to start to go internally and, to look at your insecurities and to look at your fears because there's a lot of pain associated with it.
Mhm.
So, it's like the only thing that I can do is there are some people I can't work with because some people aren't ready to go there. Some
Yeah.
people aren't coachable. Some people aren't
Mhm.
actually open to taking a look, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
The only thing that I can do is hold the space and make the invitation and be ready for those people when they are ready to
Yeah.
the inner work and do all those kinds of things. But it's like the only thing that I can do right now is like stand on the top of the hill and like
Mhm.
shout loving things down at people, and like when they're ready, when they're ready to come up, they'll come up, and like
Yes.
I'll just have to. I'll be waiting for them.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love it. Really cool, man. Come to the top by going through yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I love it. All right. So we've talked about your journey, how you got here and where you're heading. Where are you heading anyways?
Oh man, nowhere in the near future. Which actually is not a problem. I'm more of a homebody, anyways. I'm more
Yeah.
so this whole thing of like working from home and quarantining, I'm like, it's cool. I don't go out much anyways. So
What's funny is that I saw a lot of people posting, everybody's like, oh my God, I have to work from home. I have to work from home. And all the people that are gamers that
Mhm.
spend hours in their dungeon playing video games. Like, we
Cool.
got this. This is a piece of cake.
Totally.
And
Yeah, I think at a higher level though, like where I'm going is just like creating more love and joy out in the world. And
nice.
I think the main vehicles that I'm using to do that are my coaching, so working with people individually. It's
Mhm.
my podcast. It's the events that have been put on hold, but I'm looking at doing virtual versions of those events.
Yeah.
I'd love to do, speaking. I'd love to do more writing. Like, I just think these topics and these concepts are so important, and it's really exciting to think about how I can encapsulate the things that I've learned and the journey that I've been on, and
Yeah.
provide it to people in a way that allows them to come to the same realizations. Because there's no downside in people becoming more self-aware. There's
Mhm.
literally no downside. It's
Nope.
only upside. And the more people that do it, the more they impact the people that are around them, and it's just a really
Yes.
awesome ripple effect.
Exactly. Wow, I love it, man. This is really powerful stuff. This is what this podcast is about. You hacking through life with hobbies,
Yeah.
and talking about virtual meetings. Right, this is one way that we are able to connect. Like, you're in your home, I'm in my home. We're social
Mhm.
distancing, but having conversation. Um, I was reached out by a friend, and they were like, "Hey, I have all these coaches that all their events are canceled. How can we do this where you combining um combining Zoom, video conferencing and Eventbrite? Like, how can we do this?"
Mhm.
I'm like, let me do some research. Let me talk to Zoom. Let me talk to, see what I can find. And I ran into two different startups that recently came out of stealth mode. One of them is called runtheworld.today, enables you to set up virtual conferences. I was like, holy smokes, this is so powerful. They have like they have a whole calendar of speakers. And so you can like jump into that conference, webinar here, webinar there, and then, talking to people that are in there, and they have like virtual rooms. I'm like, this is pretty interesting. I'm sure a lot of people are employing some sort of this and that.
Yeah, it's like how do we connect even if we can't physically be with each other?
Yeah.
Last night I actually had a virtual dinner party.
Nice.
I do, I do, I do a lot of improv here in Chicago, and
Uh-huh.
so just set it up, or somebody else set it up. But it was a lot of my improv friends. We just all got on Zoom and just like
Nice.
had dinner, and we all ate dinner together, and just like chatted. So yeah, it's just doing what you can with the tools that we have, and
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
And then a lot of the mentors, or like for example, Pat Flynn's been doing a live video every day on YouTube, answering people's questions, right?
Nice.
And then there's other people they're doing live videos, and it's really inspiring to see. Okay, people now actually using these technologies that YouTube has been pushing, has been pushing, and it's been really really cool to see all of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get into some of the questions that I asked my guests towards the end of the episode. What is one hobby that you wish you got into?
Oh man. Okay, I have a lot of answers for this. Do I have to pick one, or can I share
You
multiple?
can share multiple.
Yes. Okay, cool. So, I it's funny, when I moved to Chicago, I was like, I should do hobbies because I've never done hobbies before. So I took a photography class, which was awesome. Loved
Yeah.
it. Still do a lot of it. And then the next year I was like, I want to do improv. So I did improv, still do a lot of it. Love it. And, especially given the current situation, I'm now looking at like, all right, what's my next hobby going to be? And so there's a couple things that come up for me. One is drawing. I
Mhm.
really love and feel moved by people who can just sketch things just
Oh
from
my
their.
god. Yeah.
It's crazy. Like people, especially people who are really talented illustrators. I'm like, oh my gosh, I so wish I could do that. Just like see something in my brain and bring it to life on,
Yeah.
paper, and just do it for fun. Like that just sounds like such a cool creative outlet. So I think I'm gonna start doing that. I was
Nice.
like, I'm gonna go to Target later and also get some drawing supplies. But couple other things I really would love to do, musical lessons at some point. I'd really would love to
Mhm.
learn how to play the guitar.
Mhm.
I'd love to take vocal lessons. I think that would be really interesting and kind of confronting. Like it's a little bit scary. Uh,
Yeah.
that would be cool. And then the last one, and this is the answer that I give to people sometimes, like occasionally, maybe once. I got asked the question, if you could snap your fingers and be good at anything, like what would it be? And for
Yeah.
me, it's hip hop dancing. Hands down, hands down. If I could pick one thing that I
Nice.
could snap my fingers and be great at,
Sorry.
be
Good
hip
at
hop.
hip hop dancing. Nice. That's so funny. On the drawing part, my brother-in-law is really good. He's really good. He can draw Batman and all these superheroes
Mhm,
with excellent accuracy. I was like, oh my god, how do you do this? And he is a programmer. But
mhm,
then I follow these folks on TikTok and Instagram, and they're just so amazing artists um, on paper, and it's just so
mhm.
beautiful to see their
Yeah,
creations.
it's just a practice thing.
Yeah,
Practicing.
it's that practice, man.
Mhm,
Time.
mhm.
All right. What is your favorite movie or TV show?
Oh my goodness. I always have a really hard time with answering what my favorite movie is because
Hmm.
I think it just depends on my mood.
Yeah.
Um, but I think if I had to go with my most watched television show, it's definitely The Office. Like I think
Nice.
I've probably seen it's double digits now,
Oh
if
wow.
not at least like almost 20 times that I've seen the first seasons. Yeah.
Hmm. Those
Yeah,
are
it's
the good
one of those
ones.
ones that yeah, yeah. As soon as Steve Carell leaves, I'm like, this isn't, this just isn't my cup of tea anymore. But like it's just funny, like anytime I'm watching TV, anytime I'm just like have a break, I'll just like throw on an episode of The Office.
Hmm.
Just makes me feel better.
That's hilarious. I would do that with Seinfeld.
Mm.
That's one of my
That's actually
favorites.
one that I've watched a couple episodes, but I
Uh-huh.
need to watch more, because I loved the first. I think actually I might have watched like the first couple episodes ever.
Hmm.
And obviously people love the show, so
Yeah.
that's what I need to get into.
No, I never watched it because I didn't grow up in the States, and when it was,
Mhm.
when it's airing, I wasn't in the States, so I didn't have access to television. I can't remember. But I finally watched it, binge watched the whole thing, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is so cool!" And I would like bring up, so one time in Seinfeld, and then
Yeah.
colleagues, I'm like, "Oh my god, she's this guy
Love it.
Seinfeld all over again." Because I'm sure you do that with The Office,
Oh yeah,
right?
nonstop,
Talking to people,
literally nonstop. Like
right?
I'll
Yeah,
I'll take Snapchats and Instagram videos
yeah.
of scenes and like send them to people, and
Hmm.
like I still get a super positive response. It's just like one of those things that everybody can kind of relate on.
Yeah, it
So
is. It's very neat. All right, next one. What movie would you choose if you got to play a character in it?
Oh, man, these questions. Oh man, if I got to play a character, uh, I think I don't know. My brain immediately goes to like a superhero movie.
Mm-hmm.
Avengers. I really like the Avengers. Oh, actually, here's probably what I would say. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Quill. I don't know what it is about that character that I just
He's
like
so good, right?
that I really relate to because he's kind of a dummy and but he's just like I don't know, he's just very human. I think that's what it is. I think
That's
he's
what it is.
a very
He's very
human
human in
guy.
an
And
alien world. Yeah.
yeah, and it's just I love those movies too. So
Nice. I love it. So the origin of this question came from Ready Player One.
ooh,
And
great book.
if you read the book,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and in the book, he has to be Matthew Broderick in War Games.
Mhm.
So I was like, hey, that'd be a really good question to ask.
Nice. I love that.
All right, so next question I already know the answer, but let's see what you think.
Okay.
Who is your favorite superhero?
So I'm going to change up my answer.
Mm-hmm.
I would say probably Iron Man, and
Oh, I love that
specifically
man.
Iron Man's arc in the Avengers movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's so powerful.
Yeah.
The like if you watch the first Iron Man movie to
Mm-hmm.
Endgame and Avengers, like the arc that he takes
Yeah.
and coming back around at the end, like I'm actually getting goosebumps even talking about this.
Me
Um,
too.
like just him choosing for love, like him choosing from this place of just unconditional love and compassion and like being willing to almost like sacrifice yourself in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting because I realize every time I rewatch that movie, I pick up on other things, and there's a ton that has to do with like masculine archetypes and
Mm-hmm.
what it means to be purpose driven and achieving said purpose and vulnerability and all these pieces. And yeah, I just think that there's something so cool and inspiring about that.
Absolutely. And I recently rewatched Iron Man 3 because I think that one's a really powerful one too,
Mhm,
because you
mhm.
get to see the man behind the mask. And it's like I was using it as a cocoon and now I'm out on
Mhm.
the other side.
Yeah.
It's a really powerful arc, and he just played it so well. It's just
Mhm.
that's him.
He's like perfect. Yeah, it's like nobody else can really play Iron Man.
No, it's impossible.
Like, yeah.
Like, no, you can't be Iron Man. And that's one thing I like about Marvel
Uh-huh.
is that, well, it hasn't been that long yet. I mean, it's been what, 10 years?
Mhm.
Because with Batman and Superman, they've recasted that character over and over,
Mhm.
for the past 2, 3 decades. And Spider-Man has been recasted a couple, 3 times also,
Mhm.
but that's because they didn't build a good enough story. I mean, I think the first Spider-Man series was really awesome with
Tobey
Tobey
Maguire.
Maguire. I relate to that one a lot more because I was a lot younger than the ones. I mean, and now Tom Holland has done a really good job. Also,
Like Tom Holland.
it's like wow, like
Mhm.
they just changed the whole dynamic of it, and then now Spider-Man being part of the Avengers and the Marvel universe, it gives
Mhm.
you totally different types of goosebumps. So that's pretty
Mhm.
amazing.
Agreed.
Last question. If you were a board game, what would it be?
Oh man. Oh, these questions. Oh man. Man, this is an interesting question because I don't play many board games.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I guess my brain goes to the board game that I know
That
or
you
I play
played
somewhat
before. Yeah.
consistently is Settlers of Catan
Oh, yeah.
or Catan, however
Catan.
you say
Yeah.
it. Yeah. I don't know. It's just like it's like easy to understand, but there's like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of strategy
Yeah.
in it. And I associate it with a lot of feelings of like community and friendship and just like joy and laughter.
Absolutely. I
So
think
I guess that would be my answer.
yeah, no, that's a really cool answer. And the game itself is almost like life. Like you are,
Mhm.
you don't know where you're going to start from.
Mhm.
And you don't know, which road you're going to take to expand your horizon, because you can be next to a desert or be next to, wood, but you don't have access to sheep or whatever. And, now you got to like find luck in life to be able to get that
It's like
action
being
going.
adaptable, and there's a
Yeah,
lot of ways to win in that game.
exactly. Yeah,
So
it's
same
really
thing in
cool.
life.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for your time, man. Where can my audience find you?
Yes. So easiest place is just my website, which is just haydenhumphrey.com. I'm also super active, especially nowadays on Facebook and LinkedIn, just by my name, or I'm on Instagram at Hayden as himself.
Perfect. Well, Hayden, thank you so much for your time. This was a fun conversation. We got to learn about your superheroes and your TV shows and your hobbies and your journey. So it's been super awesome talking with you. Let's keep in touch and talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, man. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for listening to Hacks and Hobbies. You can find additional information on the guest today on their website, hacksandhobbies.com. Please feel free to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out on upcoming interviews with amazing guests.